Another thing I find out there is a lot of rings. I mean, you just, people when they swim, lose their rings. And this is my wife's jewelry box. She gets first choice of everything. And I'm thinking this box holds 80, and she's got about 2 or 3 in a lot of them. So I think there's over 100 rings here. And one of the rings that I found down there was a emerald ring. And this ring is a 4.7 carat emerald. It's set in platinum with 16 diamonds around the edge. I took this one in and had it formally appraised at $11,000. I try to return rings. If I find a ring and I can return it, and I've returned a lot. But if people would just scratch their phone number inside the ring or have some way we could track them down. But it really would, simplify getting them back. And I really truly believe that when I find a ring, even if it's a diamond ring, and I know who the owner is, I want to get it back to him, and I believe the good Lord pays you back for that. Sooner or later, He's going to reward you for that action. So I really a strong believer in that. Another thing, I'm finding all kinds of artifacts down there, and it's a shame to just stick them in a drawer. And so I make some little displays, and I got to show you this little display I made. It's out of a cupboard door, and this is stuff that I've found on the beach. But these are prehistoric horse's teeth. I mean, you've seen these laying there, and they're, I think, they go way back 1,000 years old. This is a megalodon tooth. This is his Kangchai pottery. It washes up on the beach every once in a while. This come from the Orient back then, and they would bring the ships over, and then they'd go overland into Cuba, and I think it was Cuba or one of the there, and then bring it back to Spain. And these little pieces of broken pottery are quite valuable. I seen one the other day, and he wanted $300 for just a little piece like that, and had a certificate of authenticity. This is a musket ball. This actually come right off a wrecked ship. These are bronze ship spikes. The ship spikes, the bronze ship spikes date way back. They go back into the 1600s, and like most of the 1715 fleets, ships were they used the old iron spike. The life expectancy of those ships was not very long, and there's a thing called shipworms that eat the bottom of the ships up and that stuff. So they built these ships pretty cheaply. So the theory is that the ones with the bronze spikes and that stuff were from more affluent people. They're made to last. And these are latches. This one here came right off a wreck, or no, this one did, and the other one I found on shore. This is a little silver cross, and it's just I haven't cleaned it up, but it's silver. And it has a candle on it, and that candle stands for the light of Christ, and this is what the Spanish traded with the natives. So can you imagine getting a little silver gold cross like that, and they take a gold funeral mask, And this is another Spanish coin. Here is a couple they're either fishing weights or small sounding weights. I believe they're fishing weights, and these are a couple rings, and this is a lead bottle cap. They used to cap their bottles with lead. They had the corks and they had the lead. So that's an interesting thing, and it just makes a nice little display you can put on the wall. A little piece of history there. And I've got another one that I got to redo. The board is falling apart. But this is stuff that I've also found on the beach. There's a lot of more of these lead weights. This is a silver shoe buckle. They used to wear buckles on their shoes. And whoever wore this, had to be very affluent that they could afford to have, a silver shoe buckle. One of these coins, one of these 8 reals, this would be a month's salary for the average sailor down there. So I got another lead, bottle cap and another Spanish coin, 2 little silver rings that have been identified coming from the flight. Archaeologists identified them. And these 2 pieces of pottery are from the A's Indians. I've got quite a bit of pottery from the A's Indians and that stuff. So it's just kind of an interesting stuff. And if you find it, you kind of like to share it. So that's why I made these boards. And I've got different displays of Civil War stuff. And, the hobby has been very, very good to me. What was interesting, I'm so addicted to this detecting, and a bunch of the gals down in Florida came up to Gene and he said, these dope addicts and alcoholics, they have interventions for them. Let's have an intervention for Terry. I mean, he's detecting too much. Well, that day I come back, I had found 2 really nice rings, and they called off the intervention and put in orders with Gene, So It's fun. When I first started down there, people thought it was so funny. You know, there's a bunch of old fellows that would get together on the stairway. Our camper was right beside the access to the beach. And they'd have their coffee and visit. And of course, I'm out there trying to get ready to go out and find treasure. You know, and they just thought that was funny. And then all of a sudden, I started bringing this stuff back. And the interest just peaked, you know, when I'd come back. What did you get today, Terry? And it's just really fun. I had one fellow stop at my place. This was after we actually sold a camper because we were just too close to the water, and bought a trailer house down there. And he came in there, and he had well over $1 million worth of Spanish gold and silver that he put out on our coffee table, showing it to me. And I mean, that's exciting. It's just exciting. And, you know, some of the stuff like that, I'm telling these stories in this book. You know, the Detecting the Treasure Coast from Terry Shannon. If you just go into Amazon or Kindle and that, and just put in my name, it should come up. And it has it in hardbound, you know, the paperback, and again in the e-books. Yeah, the e-books. When I'm out on the beach, you know, normally I'm in remote areas. I don't go to the main beaches and that, but and not very often, but when I do, you'll see 4 or 5 kids out there on the beach, all of them with their own cell phone, ignoring each other, playing with their phone. And I'm 79 years old, and you know, I'm out on the beach. I walk an average 6 to 8 miles every day, unless I'm into the treasure. Then I don't walk very far at all. I'm just busy digging. But I think that the benefit of this thing is your health issues. I had a fellow come up to me on the beach, and he was an old guy. And he said, you know, he really would like to do what I'm doing, but he was just too old. And I asked him, I said, how old are you? And he's 62 years old. And at that time, I think it was like 77 or something like that. So, the biggest treasure is the health issues. And that would be the same with our young people. You know, you see the young people today, a lot of them are overweight. You know, when we were kids, we never walked. We always ran. Everybody was in good shape and that stuff. And it's just interesting. I've taken, quite a few young people detecting. And I have a better time than they do. I really do. I just enjoy that so much. And it's exciting for them. You know, I highly recommend it. I've had a few interesting things happen to be out there in the Treasure Coast. I'm out there every day, stuff is going to happen. But one of the most interesting things we had, it was a full moon at times, so you get what's called plus and minus tides. The tides go way out. And I was at Melbourne Beach. It's called Melbourne Beach, and it was just flat. The beach it was only maybe up to your knees. And as you walked out a ways, there was a trench. And the trench was about up to my armpits. It was a lot deeper. So of course I jump into this trench, and I'm going along with my metal detector, just going on. I got these great big headphones on, and all of a sudden out of my left side I could see this lady on shore, and she's jumping up and down and waving her arms, and I took my headphones off, and she hollers, "Shark!" And I looked around. The beach had been totally cleared. The only guy out there was this idiot with a metal detector, and the shark was maybe 2-3 feet behind me, just huge. And his tail was actually out of the water, and it was flopping back and forth, and he was following me. And I think what it was is I think that the metal detector puts out a frequency, and I think it could hear that, but it was following me. All I did was just jump out of the trench, and then the shark was so big he couldn't get up in that shallow water and that stuff. But I thought it was a neat experience, and everybody else told me I was crazy. I had one other incident where a lot of times when the beach changes, you'll get a sandbar, and then on the other side of the sandbar will be a trough. And sometimes these troughs get pretty deep, and I always jump into them, and I went in there, and I thought I saw something big, but I just wasn't sure. I was detecting, and when I got done, I got out, and this lady come in, and she jumped in, and a shark bit her. I mean, it tore up a little bit, but it wasn't real bad. But it just, apparently when you're 79 years old and got white bony legs, the sharks aren't interested in this kind of. And I've had a whole bunch of run-ins with snakes. I go up and down the beach. A lot of times I got to cut through, some brush to get there. And these things, they just scare. There was a spot where this buddy of mine had found a pendant. And it had a picture of the king on one side and a picture of the queen on the other side, and it was very valuable. I think he was offered like $200,000 for it. But it was an old salvage camp. And so we go down there, and it was just thick jungle, kind of like, you know. So I actually gets down on my belly with my detector. Now he's found, you know, some priceless artifacts in there, so I'm excited. And I'm on the belly, kind of crawling. I'm swinging my detector in front, and this big snake come right over the top of my detector. You know, and I'm from Minnesota. I don't recognize all that, but this thing was huge, you know, and I just kind of lost some of my enthusiasm there. I'm running into rattlesnakes and cottonmouths. There was a time I'm walking down the beach, and I found a sea turtle, and it was wrapped in fishing line. And you know, I felt real bad. It wasn't a real big one. I could carry it, so I picked it up and I carried it to the nearest beach access. And then on my phone, I have the number of the turtle people, and I called them, and they come and got the turtle. You know, they're going to take it out and try to, you know, I never did find out if it recovered or not, but I hope so. You know, well, after they left, it was a rainy day, and I thought, boy, you know, I've done a good thing. Now the good Lord owes me something. So I went back to where there was this cliff, and I'm going on the cliff face with my detector, and my arms are bad. I've had surgeries on both arms. And, you know, right up above there was a bush kind of hanging out over the cliff. And I raised my detector up, I hit that bush, and this snake come down out of this bush. And he didn't drop, he was going right down the bank, it was almost vertical. And when he landed by my feet, the feet weren't there. I mean, at my age, I can still move, there's no question about it. So I've had a lot of interesting things like that happen, and you know, that makes a lot of the fun. I grabbed an alligator one time, a small one, you know, by the tail. And I mean, by the time I was pulling up, he was already right around coming, you know, they're just so fast, and the movement never quit. I just kept them going, you know, but it's just a wonderful life, a wonderful experience, you know, and metal detecting, you know, it's going to add years to my life. I used to, when I was a county sheriff, we'd have retirements for these fellows, and we'd all get together, we'd roast them, give them a jacket or some kind of gag gift, wish them well. 3-4 years later, I'm a pallbearer, you know, and I'm 79 years old, great shape, and it's because I'm out there every day swinging that metal detector. What this is odds and ends that I have found on the Treasure Coast. And of course, when I come home back to Minnesota, we got to pack all this stuff, and it's just easier to throw it in here. So this is kind of just a mishmash. But I've got, like this bag here is bronze ship spikes. These date back to the 17 and 1800, or not the 1800s, 17 and earlier, that they used to, the shipworms would bore into the wood, and they would, you know, on the bottom of the ship, they would coat the bottom of the ship with lead sheeting or copper sheeting, and that's, you know, that's from them. These big things here, these are keel pins. On the old sailing ship, they had a great big long keel pin that curved around the keel to hold everything in place, and this is part of one. I have a complete one that I found. It's not bronze, it's iron, and you know, I had it in my garage, and I actually took it down to the lake here and threw it in the lake. I was going to soak it because of the salt water, try to get it out of there, and it's been in the lake now for about 3 years. I've got to go, we were talking about it yesterday, I got to go down and get that back. I've got a ton of these ship spikes. And these are heavy bronze ship spikes. They date back to the 1600s, and look at how bent they are. So they must have, when they wrecked, I mean, to bend something like that, there had to be some terrible work. Here's an interesting little piece, and the lion was really revered by the Span. You know, it was brave and it was tough and all that sort of stuff. And I believe what this is just a lion that, some type of jewelry or something that I found on the coast. And I just haven't been able to, you know, really ID it, but it's kind of neat, you know. And here's something, the day that I called my wife up and said I was going to be late, you know, I said I'm into the treasure, I dug this little tiny spoon handle. It's a pewter spoon handle. There's no value there, but I was on the internet, and I was watching a guy in Vermont metal detecting, and he found an identical. He found a gold Spanish coin, a gold escudo, and when he was doing the wrap-up, he had an identical pewter spoon handle, just like this. The same pattern is kind of different. And I mean, what are the odds? Here's a guy in Vermont finds a spoon handle and a Spanish coin, and I find one in Florida on the beach, same spoon handle, and I had a Spanish coin at the same spot. So it's just kind of a neat. I got a bunch of you know, Spanish coins that are kind of worn in here, you know, but I take this piece to, and it's much neater, you know, when I have it, but so people can look at it. But like I said, I just threw it together to get it home. This little bag here is full of musket balls, I was down on the Treasure Coast. There's a place called Turtle Trails down there. It's really well known as far as Spanish artifacts. And I got into a spot and I ended up digging, I think, 21 musket balls. You know, and I found other musket balls, like here's one here and here's several here that, you know, and to me, I don't think they're worth anything, but this come from, you know, the 1700s, and I think it's a neat artifact. You know, another ship latch, you know, this pottery here, you can see the shells on the pottery. This actually came from a sunken ship. I was diving on the ship and actually picked these up, and the pottery I've got. You know, our doorbell just rang. My wife was getting it, but so it's kind of interesting stuff. There's no value here, but it's stuff that I, you know, say because it's just, you know, it's part of my history. You know. Again, on the book, if you just go into Amazon and Terry Shannon, it should bring it up. You can get it at the Backyard Station here in Frazee. They carry the books. There's good people down there, and they're actually selling it cheaper than you can buy it online for. So you not only get it cheaper, you don't have to pay the postage. If you go into YouTube and just put in Terry Shannon, or put in the legendary Terry Shannon, or Terry Shannon detecting the Treasure Coast, there's quite a few videos that I have out that of me detecting, and you know, the one that has over 1 million views is a how-to. It explains, you know, what to look for on the beach. And, you know, it just gives a whole bunch of detecting. And I have a mailing list of, and there's probably a couple hundred people that I like to write these stories, and I have a very weird sense of humor, and people seem to enjoy them. You know, and if I have a very good day out there, I'll write about it. I carry a camera and take pictures, and that's just priceless. And so I have quite a following in that way too, and I've made so many friends. It's just unreal. I had a little bout a couple days ago up in the river. I got severely dehydrated. I ended up going to the hospital in the ambulance, and I had well over 100 people contact me and wish me well and that stuff. That and I mean, it's just really wonderful that you got that kind of friends. I tell everybody that if your wealth was judged by the number of friends you have and the quality of your friends, I'm a real wealthy man. I even got a couple of calls from Florida, and I said, well, how did you hear about that down in Florida? So it's a small world. There's no question about it. But I have quite a following, and I'm very blessed.